Hello and welcome back everyone. So today's and the following two discussions on my channel are going to be themed, and the theme in question is, of course, as you'll probably be able to tell from the title, the Big Three. If you're not aware what the Big Three is, then you're probably not caught up with the manga, and if that's the case, then watching this video is not advised unless you actually want to be spoiled, because the characters that this sort of miniseries will include have not yet been introduced in the anime and won't be for some time. Well, with that out of the way, I guess I could just get right into today's discussion topic, which is Nejire Hado, the only female among the big three. Nejire is not an Ochako. Let's just start with that, because I think that's very good. We don't really want to see a new character that's supposed to have this really big hype and be able to say that this is just a more developed version of Ochako. That wouldn't be something that we want, and the reason why she's not is because she's extremely carefree about pretty much everything. She's emotionally unhinged, you might say. She speaks her mind whenever she has something to say, be it by curiosity or something else entirely. This was very well shown to us when she wanted to know things about the students in class 1A, and yeah, it's nice to see that we have a girl that is supposed to be a monster in terms of ability as a hero who actually has a really soft yet wild side. Like how she wanted to know a lot about people's quirks without regards for how invasive or personal the questions might be. Her curious side more or less caused her to be right in their face, and she probably has no control over her personality. I mean, people typically don't, that's why it's called a personality. It's what makes you, you. Compared to the other members of the big three, she's very different. Like, you have Tamaki, who suffers from pretty bad anxiety, and then we have Mirio, who is very outgoing and confident, but not in the way that Nejire is. Nejire is more cheery and curious if anything, but don't let that fool you, because we have seen her take down two villains or criminals with gigantification quirks, and she didn't need to try very hard to do it either. So she's not all just about hugging and learning. Now, one thing about Nejire so far in the series is that we don't really know very extensively what her quirk is and how strong she really is, because well, we've barely had any screen time with Nejire. We do know it is in some way related to shockwaves, and her name is actually a pretty big clue as to what it may be. Now, it doesn't have to relate to her quirk, but it very well could. Her name is Nejire Hado, and Hado actually means wave as in the physics terminology, and Nejire means either distort or twist. And if we look at her hero costume, we can see that there seems to be a twist theme to it, as there are spirals in her hair, as well as her gauntlets being shaped as spirals, so I'm thinking that her quirk is probably something that ties into that theme. Now, I don't necessarily believe that her quirk is limited to creating spiral shockwaves or anything, but it may be what she's made out of her quirk, because lots of heroes take their quirk and make it into their own thing, kinda like how Izuku decided to stray from how All Might used One for All. Nejire probably could create shockwaves in many different ways, but what I think her gauntlets might be for is to sort of focus or channel her quirks so that it's not as spread out as it maybe would be otherwise. Kinda like how Bakugo's explosion quirk is normally wild and explosive, but he can adapt it to be more focused and long ranged as well. Now, we've seen her pretty much fly using her quirk, at least for a limited time, and that's just another reason why I'm saying that a quirk can be used in many different ways than just one, especially if a hero suit is made specifically to help out in that way. The one thing I'm unsure about is the horn-like spirals in her hair, to be honest. I've yet to really come up with an idea of what they may be for. I reckon it might actually just be a fashion statement. I mean, not every single feature on your hero suit is going to be there for practicality. The last thing that I think should be talked about is, of course, her relation to some of the other people in the series, and I thought I'd kind of narrow it down to Tamaki and Mirio, because these people are, well, pretty close to Nejire in the way that they're from the same class, as well as the fact that they're also friends on top of that. But Nejire is actually a lot closer to Tamaki than she is to Togata. Now, as I said, they're all friends. It's not like she only likes Tamaki or anything, but she does address Tamaki by his first name, but she doesn't address Mirio by his first name, and instead calls him Togata, which is his last name, so that in itself is actually enough for us to understand that Tamaki and Nejire has a closer connection to one another. Not in the sense that they're a couple or anything, at least not that we know of, but it doesn't really seem like it at any rate, given the fact that Nejire still acts like a friend around him, and that's another thing that I noticed when doing some research on Nejire, because while looking at Nejire's wiki page, it reminded me of when Tamaki was shot with an anti-quirk bullet, and Nejire didn't even seem to worry about him in the slightest, whereas Mirio did. So Nejire clearly has a different view on Tamaki than Mirio does. More than likely, Mirio worries a lot about Tamaki because of his anxiety issues and all of that, and the fact that they have been friends since childhood, but Nejire probably met Tamaki for the first time at the UA Academy, so she doesn't have the same level of relationship, I guess. However, I could see it being the case that Nejire believes that Tamaki is much like herself, a member of the big three, and can take care of himself. He doesn't need an exceptional amount of comfort from her. But yeah, I really like the contrast of Nejire's and Tamaki's relationship, since they're pretty much polar opposites in that way, and especially how Tamaki actually realizes that Nejire goes overboard sometimes with her curiosity and all of that, while she doesn't really seem too bothered when it comes to Tamaki, and despite that she still has a close enough relation to refer to Tamaki by his first name but not to refer Mirio by his. I don't know really, I just feel like that's something that is going to be explained and developed in the future, and I certainly hope so, especially since Nejire hasn't had all that much screen time at all, at least not in the way that we would learn much about her. But yeah, as I may have said earlier, I really hope that we get to see her character expand a lot more, and especially to find out more precisely of what her quirk is, both by function and by name, as well as of course learn about her backstory, since we kind of know Tamaki and Togata's shared backstory, but so far we've nothing on Nejire really, and I think that is something that we may or may not get later on in this arc, seeing how the other two have gotten a good amount of growth in just a short time. So based on Horikoshi's writing for them, I could see Nejire getting similar treatment very soon. Well, with that said, I'll be ending the video here. Let me know what you think down below in the comments, and as always, if you did, please like this video if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new to my channel. This has been your favorite host Perm, and I'll see you soon.